Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw recap and results video. And tonight's Monday Night Raw was the go-home show for Survivor Series, which is this Sunday. Which, do you all know that Survivor Series is this Sunday? Do you all? Because from watching this show tonight, I'm thinking, oh yeah, there is a pay-per-view this Sunday, which WWE, is like, oh, they make you forget that there's a pay-per-view this Sunday because you know how they don't hype up, their pay-per-views anymore like they used to. But Survivor Series is this Sunday, and the show tonight, do I even have to say how this show was tonight? Because I say it every week. So, there you go. You already know what I'm going to say about this show tonight. The show was a snooze fest. Everything outside of Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton, which was the main event where the WWE Championship was on the line, outside of everything else, it was just, in my opinion. But let's get on with the Monday Night Raw recap and results. So Monday Night Raw opened up tonight with Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre came out and he ended up saying that, Survivor Series is this Sunday. He ended up asking who's ready to see him Claymore Randy Orton later on tonight. So he ended up talking about the Universal Champion, Roman Reigns, and says that he should worry about McIntyre, not Orton. So McIntyre ended up saying that Roman has put himself on a pedestal so high above everyone else and has his head shoved up his own ass. McIntyre ended up saying that he will win the WWE Championship later on. And on Sunday, he's going to claymore Roman back to earth and humble him. So then we had Randy Orton end up interrupting McIntyre. Randy Orton was shown on the screen. Orton ended up saying that he is thankful for being the WWE Champion. And he ended up saying that the fine for laying his hands on Adam Pearce, yes, WWE fined Randy Orton after Randy Orton ended up putting his hands on Adam Pearce last week on Monday Night Raw. So Orton ended up saying that the fine for him laying his hands on Adam Pearce didn't faze him because he's been fined and suspended more than anyone else over the years. Orton went on to say that he's still here on top because he is the greatest ever, and that he will prove later on in the night that he will still leave the WWE Champion as the WWE Champion. So McIntyre got on the mic. He ended up going on about how he will win the WWE Championship later on. And then The Miz and John Morrison came out. And I'm like, didn't we see The Miz, Morrison, and McIntyre in the ring at the beginning of Monday Night Raw last week? So it's like, oh, rinse and repeat, copy and paste of last week's script. So The Miz and Morrison ended up coming out. Miz ended up indicating that they will be sitting at ringside for the WWE Championship match later on. And so Miz ended up teasing a Money in the Bank cash-in, which of course he's not going to cash it in. He's going to wait until Sunday at Survivor Series. And when the Miz does cash in the Money in the Bank briefcase, it's going to be a failure. He's not going to be winning the WWE Championship. It's going to be a failure of a cash-in, in my opinion. So The Miz ended up saying that the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, hid out in the Firefly Funhouse last week because the Fiend is afraid of him and John Morrison. So Miz ended up going on about how change is coming and that McIntyre can do nothing about it. So McIntyre ended up approaching the Miz and Morrison. Miz and Morrison ended up retreating out of the ring. Miz ended up saying that whether McIntyre wins or loses later on, he will be the one laughing all the way to the bank. So Miz ended up raising the briefcase, starts taunting McIntyre. So McIntyre ended up daring the Miz to pull something later on in the night. So basically, that was that. That was how the segment ended. Though, but no, same old. It's the same old shit that we saw last week with the Miz and Morrison and McIntyre. Although McIntyre didn't tackle Miz and Morrison or get him out of the ring as what we saw last week. So, and then we had a replay or video or package of Lana going through the tables 8 times. I'm like, really? Do we need this? Do we need to see that? So then we had Lana, Shayna Baszler, and Nia Jax versus Mandy Rose, Dana Brooke, and Asuka. Now this match was terrible in my opinion. Right when the bell rang, Bazer tagged Lana out of the match. Dana ended up working on Shayna Baszler. Bazer ended up delivering a backbreaker on Dana Brooke. Bazer ended up knocking Asuka off of the ring apron, and we saw Bazer end up sending Dana Brooke out to the floor. Nia Jax ended up tagging in and goes and attacks Dana Brooke. There's a point where Mandy Rose's arm was on the steel steps, so we had Nia Jax end up holding Mandy Rose's arm onto the steps, and Shayna Baszler ended up stomping on Mandy Rose's arm. So it looks like Mandy Rose is injured, possibly because of that shot from Shayna Baszler. But at the end of the match, we had Baszler end up locking in the care for the clutch to Asuka. Lana end up tagging herself in, and Baszler end up yelling at Lana. Lana end up going in for Asuka, and Lana end up rolling up Asuka, but Asuka end up kicking out. Nia Jax end up yelling at Lana to get the hell out of the ring. Asuka then end up dropping Lana with a kick, and then went for the Asuka lock. Lana ended up tapping out. So Asuka, Mandy Rose, and Dana Brooke ended up winning the match. Post-match, we had Nia Jax pissed off, and she ended up, preparing to clear off the announce table. And Bazer ended up tossing Lana out to Nia Jax. And Nia Jax ended up telling Lana that she is proud of her. She was proud of Lana's courage shown. I'm like, really? Really? You are proud? You are proud of Lana's courage, of what we saw in this match. Really? And so Nia ended up welcoming her to Team Raw. And so they go and leave, but Nia Jax ended up going, psych. So she ended up putting Lana through the announce table for the 9th time. 9 times already, Lana has gone through the announce table. Unbelievable. It's getting stupid. It's getting stupid every single week. Lana going through the table from Nia Jax. Samoan drop that Nia Jax did to Lana. Whatever. Overall, the match was terrible. So then we had Charlie Caruso approaching Dana Brooke backstage. Dana Brooke was outside of the trainer's room. She ended up saying that Mandy Rose's arm is in bad shape, thanks to Shayna Baszler. She ended up saying that Nia Jax was out of line. And then suddenly we see Reckoning of Retribution. Reckoning, aka Mia Yim. She ended up attacking Dana Brooke. She ends up beating Dana Brooke down. And the officials end up trying to come and break it up. So, and that was that. And so then we went to the Firefly Funhouse. Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt were there. And Bray Wyatt ended up saying that it's nice to see everyone again. But what isn't nice is The Miz. And Bray ended up saying that he doesn't fear The Miz and wants to help him with his issues. So Bray Wyatt ended up saying to pay attention, because if he has to repeat himself, we don't want to see his bad side. So, of course, we saw flashes of The Fiend. Bray Wyatt ended up saying that this is short notice, but he has all his friends here to help him prepare. So then we saw like Ramblin' Rabbit, he was on a dartboard. And Bray Wyatt ended up saying that, oh, the word is jackass. And he ended up saying that the jackass is The Miz. So now that was basically that, but it was pretty cool Firefly Funhouse, segment. So. And then we had Cedric, Alexandra, and Shelton Benjamin versus Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods. The New Day Raw Tag Team Championship was on the line. MVP and the Hurt Business were in the ring. MVP went on about how Bobby Lashley will squash Sami Zayn this Sunday at Survivor Series. Shelton Benjamin ended up talking about how he and Cedric will win the Raw Tag Team Championships tonight. And then they will defeat the Street Profits on Sunday. MVP ended up saying then the Hurt Business will collectively control most of the gold and take credit for putting SmackDown out of business. So then we had Kofi and Xavier come out. They got on the mic. They started taunting the Hurt Business. Kofi ended up saying that they should not be called the Hurt Business. They should be called the Jerk Business. So basically, comedy from the New Day here, but it's just lame how it was written. So the match itself, it was okay, in my opinion. Not great. I mean, it's the same old. It's the same old that we've seen. Nothing new here. New Day ended up winning, and we had Kofi end up sending Shelton Benjamin to the floor, deliver the Trouble in Paradise. Xavier Woods end up tagging in, and they end up delivering the Daybreak on Cedric for the win. So New Day end up winning, retaining the Raw Tag Team Championships. I'm like, you ain't gonna put the titles on Cedric and Shelton because, they're hyping this up. WWE hyped it up, to see the New Day and the Street Profits go at Survivor Series on Sunday. So either way, the New Day was still going to retain. And then he had, after the match, Sheamus ended up catching up with Drew McIntyre backstage. Sheamus ended up talking to McIntyre about their history together. And he ends up saying that he found something that belongs to McIntyre. So there was a wooden chest there for McIntyre. McIntyre ended up opening the chest, and he ended up saying that he thought he'd never see this stuff again. So he turns around. Sheamus is there. So Sheamus ends up presenting McIntyre with a sword So McIntyre ended up thanking Sheamus for that. And we saw McIntyre looking, at the sword. And that was that. Then we had Retribution versus Matt Riddle, Keith Lee, Sheamus, and Braun Strowman. Retribution ended up getting the win because we had Strowman sending Sheamus out to the floor. And Retribution ended up getting the win. So post-match, you had Mustafa Ali, the leader of Retribution, celebrate. Styles ended up looking on. And the Team Raw team ended up arguing. And there was a point where Styles ended up running over. Strowman ended up shoving Styles into Jordan Amagbian, telling him that he's not the captain, that Styles is not the captain. So, and that was that. Moving on. We had Nikki Cross backstage. She was looking for Alexa. And Mackenzie Mitchell was interviewing Nikki Cross. Mackenzie ended up asking Nikki Cross about last week's ultimatum, where Alexa Bliss ended up picking the Fiend over Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross ended up saying that friends never give up on each other, and that the Fiend has hypnotized Alexa. She wanted to say that no matter what, she has to get Alexa away from the Fiend. So Nikki Cross is doing everything she could to get her best friend back and away from the Fiend. Which, it's not going to happen. So then Mackenzie Mitchell ends up walking over to Jeff Hardy. And Jeff Hardy was upset because there was a flyer. There was flyers that were put up that Elias made. And what was on the flyer was photos from the accident that happened on SmackDown, earlier in the year. Which I'm like, WWE completely forgot this whole storyline, because apparently it wasn't Elias who attacked Jeff Hardy. The person who ran over Elias was a guy with red hair. So completely, WWE just forgot everything about that. And so they had Jeff Hardy versus Elias here. I'm like, why are they fighting? Why are they feuding? So Jeff Hardy ended up saying that he's about to give Elias a taste of his own medicine. So then Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then Monday Night Raw came back. Elias was shown playing his guitar in the back. I'm like, whoop-de-doo, we see Elias. Jeff Hardy ended up walking in. He ended up asking, what's up with these flyers? He ends up telling Elias, what is with these flyers? So Elias ended up saying that, it's, justice after someone tried to end his career. So Jeff Hardy ended up asking how many times he has to say he didn't hit Elias with the car. I'm like, he didn't. That's why I say WWE completely forgot about that whole storyline that they did. When the guy that ran over Elias had red hair. How come I remember it, but WWE doesn't? See, they want to try to make you forget that even happened. So Elias then ended up insisting Jeff Hardy is the only one who knows what happened that night. So Jeff Hardy ended up shoving Elias up against the wall, and he ended up saying that he's going to be found guilty of a lot worse things if Elias end up, keeps on accusing him. So that was basically that. So I'm like, why are we getting more of this feud between Jeff Hardy and Elias? Like I said, why are they fighting? So then we had The Miz versus Bray Wyatt. We've seen this before. We had Bray Wyatt end up winning, Sister Abigail to The Miz. There was a point in the match where John Morrison ended up getting involved, and Alexa Bliss ended up scaring John Morrison, and we had Alexa Bliss end up taking John Morrison out over the barricade, which I thought was funny. So, like I said, Bray Wyatt won the match, Sister Abigail to The Miz. Post-match, we saw Alexa Bliss walking the barricade, which I'm like, oh, imagine if she falls off the barricade while she's, walking on it. And I gotta say, congrats to Alexa Bliss. She got engaged to Ryan Cabrera. So it was shown on her Twitter, on her social media. So congrats to Alexa Bliss and Ryan Cabrera. But we had Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss head up the ramp. And then we hear the sounds of The Fiend. And The Fiend was shown on the big screen. Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss end up staring at the screen with The Fiend on it. And then it went to black. So that was that. And so then when Monday Night Raw came back from commercial, we had Charlie Caruso, who was with Adam Pearce. Adam Pearce confirmed to Charlie Caruso that Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke will miss Survivor Series, which now they are off the Team Raw Survivor Series team for the women. So Adam Pearce ended up saying that both Mandy and Dana Brooke will be replaced by Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce. So there you go. So we had Charlie Caruso there. Adam Pearce ended up leaving. Asuka ended up approaching Charlie Caruso. And Asuka was getting really hyped for her match at Survivor Series against Sasha Banks. And that was that. And then we had Charlie Caruso trying to get a few words from Randy Orton backstage. Randy Orton ended up telling Charlie Caruso that he already has a long list of distractions on his mind, and that Charlie Caruso doesn't want to become one of those distractions. So that was what Orton had to say. We had another backstage promo from Angel Garza, where he talks about roses in the garden, and he sent the message to his secret admirer, or his possible love interest. I'm like, can we get Garza back in the ring? I mean, he's better in the ring than what they are making him do on television here, on WWE television here on Monday Night Raw, where he's just backstage delivering a promo, talks about roses, and every week at the end of his promo, he always has to hold up a rose. Let's see Garza back in the ring. The guy's talented. So then we saw Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler backstage arguing about how Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke are injured and they are taken off of the Team Raw Survivor Series team. So they got interrupted by Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce. And, we had Lacey Evans and Peyton Royce there. Lacey Evans was running her mouth to Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, saying, "You nasties." and Peyton Royce was trying to pull Lacey Evans away. Nia Jax ended up telling Bazer, look who she's settled them with now. So that was that. So now we have Nia Jax, Shayna Baszler, Lacey Evans, Peyton Royce, and Lana, all on Team Raw. And that's the Raw Women's Division. Sad, right? Sad. These women's divisions on both Raw and SmackDown, absolutely fucking terrible. And I feel for Asuka. I feel bad for her that she has to have these women here for her to compete against. It's absolutely terrible. So then we had the main event. Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton for the WWE Championship. And this was a good main event. This was a very good match here. I knew when I saw Drew McIntyre appear on SmackDown on Friday, that proved it right there that he was winning back the WWE Championship on Monday Night Raw. Going into the show tonight. But like I said, this was a good main event. It was back and forth between McIntyre and Orton. McIntyre, he ended up having a special entrance here where he was wearing a blue kilt and he was carrying the sword. The blue kilt was in the chest that we saw earlier in the night. So McIntyre, during this entrance, he was shown putting the sword in the ground and the ramp. He had pyro going off. I thought it was cool that McIntyre got a little special entrance here. So then the match got underway. Both McIntyre and Orton end up locking up. McIntyre ended up taking Orton into the corner. There was a point where McIntyre was trying to go for the Claymore 3 times in this match, but he couldn't get it. First time he tried to get it, Orton moved out of the way. It was in the ring, so Orton moved out of the way. Second time, McIntyre went for the Claymore. Orton was on the announce table, and McIntyre was going for the Claymore. Orton ended up moving out of the way. McIntyre went back first onto the announce table. And the third time he tried to hit the Claymore was Orton ended up doing a power slam because McIntyre was going for the Claymore. Orton ended up blocking it and delivered a power slam to McIntyre. There's a point also in the match where Orton was on the ring apron, and he ended up going back first through a table which was set up on the outside, and Orton's back was a little bit blooded up, but not terribly bloodied up. So, but then at the end of the match, Orton ended up trying to go for the RKO on McIntyre. McIntyre ended up blocking it, and he ended up coming right back, delivered a Claymore to Randy Orton. There you go. McIntyre ended up winning the match, becoming the WWE Champion for a second time. So post-match, you had McIntyre looking into the camera, and he was warning Roman Reigns for Sunday. So there you go. Match is set in stone for Sunday. It's going to be Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns. Champion versus champion. So, and that was how Monday Night Raw went off the air tonight. But seeing McIntyre win the WWE Championship for a second time, it makes me think, why did WWE take the title off of McIntyre and put it on Orton? And they put it on Orton, only for Orton to lose it to McIntyre and have the WWE Championship go back to being on McIntyre. They should have never did that. They should have just kept the title on McIntyre. But I know probably you all, were probably fine with that, with WWE taking the title off of McIntyre, putting it on Orton. Or probably some of you will agree with me that WWE should have never taken the title off of McIntyre. But I agree, WWE should not have taken the title off of McIntyre and put it on Orton. But that was Monday Night Raw tonight. Aside from McIntyre versus Randy Orton, the whole show was a snooze fest. But anyways, that's it for the Monday Night Raw recap and results video. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this video. Definitely give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And until next video, I'll see you all later.